Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Pink Podcast. I'm your host, Wendy, and today I want to talk about expectations versus reality. I recently had a big experience in my life where I had a really big expectation. I really wanted something, right? And I didn't get it. And this happened a couple days ago, and it's kind of shook up my life a little bit because I wanted this so bad. And it kind of made me think about how much we value our expectations and what they do for us, the good, the bad. Because when you want something and it goes good, it's like, yes. And then when you want something and it doesn't happen, it's kind of like the worst. So, managing our expectations and the outcomes is really important to our mental health and not like blaming ourselves and kind of having a healthy relationship with our needs and the possible outcomes. And so that's kind of what inspired today's topic. So, let's get into kind of what happened in my life that transpired this thought about expectation versus reality. So, let's just get into it. Basically, I have been living where I live, right, for almost 4 years now. So I moved out when I was 20, and I told myself, okay, I'm not going to move again from here until I'm moving into like a home, whether I buy it or whether I'm like renting. I just wanted to upgrade into a home, like a beautiful home, and to kind of like the next stage of my life. Like I didn't want to move from like one place to the other if it was kind of the same vibe. I only wanted to move when it was like time for a big life upgrade, right? And where I live, it's beautiful and it fulfills all my needs, and it's like a new building and stuff like that. So I love it. I have no problem with where I live. And recently, as I don't know, maybe like the last 6 months or so, I have been having the urge to finally move into a home. I want to be in a space where I can eventually create a family and just kind of start changing my life from where I'm at right now, kind of like taking the next step into my life. And I felt like the home or like a home was the right step, like the right next step is kind of like getting a little bit more serious, maybe getting a dog. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of like a different vibe to move into like a nice big home and kind of having that family uh what you would call it, like I don't know, that family bug start to like grow in my head with like the right space and just, you know, the next right step. Let's just leave it at that. And I wanted to move when it made sense, which is when my lease is up where I leave now. Now, my lease isn't up until September. So I'm not really like in a rush or in a need to be looking to where to move or anything like that. But I was looking at, like the apps and stuff to like places to move into because I kind of already have decided where I want to move into. I know the location and the type of home, and I know everything about it because I'm obsessed with this specific location, and there is like no feeling like it. And I kind of had a similar feeling before moving into where I live now. I had started to look for like places to move into when I first wanted to move out of my house. And I ran into this place like where I live now, and I knew from like the beginning that that was the one. Like I had looked at other places and I was like, okay, yeah, this is cute, this is fine. Like it also meets my requirements, but nothing felt like where I live now. Like I knew it when I saw it that this was the one and that this is where I wanted to live. And so I quickly became obsessed with it. At the time, I would come over here and just like chill in the parking lot and like stare at the buildings and be like, I'm gonna live in here so soon. And I would just like really like manifest living here. Like I knew exactly where I was gonna have all the furniture, and it just felt so right that there was no doubt in my mind that this is where I was gonna live. And obviously, I ended up moving in here, and I was like, yes, boom, got it, got the place of my dreams. Life is perfect. Now, because I know exactly where I want to move into, I have also been doing the same thing for the last couple months. I have been hanging out in the neighborhood, taking walks there, just kind of making myself feel at home because I know that that is my home and I want to be acclimated with the space. I want to already have that feeling of living there and kind of manifest myself into there faster, right? And so, with that being said, I started looking on the apps like I had mentioned for like places, right? Like these houses, like looking at what's like the average price, like what the space looks like for that price, and just kind of becoming familiar with the area and what type of house I wanted and what fits into my budget and what were my non-negotiables and my negotiables, and just kind of getting a feel for it, right? I wanted to see what it would look like by the time I wanted to move out, kind of also knowing how much money I would need because, like you have to put in deposits and this and that. So I kind of just wanted to have a feeling for what was coming and prepare myself and just be in the mood of like looking and just being in the gist of it because I really, really want to move. And I have been looking. I actually went and toured, not like with a realtor, but me and my partner, we went and like saw maybe like 15 of these houses in person. Like we drove around them, like looked at them, kind of compare them, like, oh, we like this one more because of this. And we were just having like a little tour day. It was so fun. At the end of this tour day, mind you, before the tour date, we had looked at these houses, right? Like the ones that we wrote down to go look at. We have been looking at the same ones for like a week. Both of us, like across all these apps, it's always the same couple houses that are being rented, and they hadn't really added anything new. It was like always the same thing. And we have been looking at the same ones. So we're like, okay, let's just go see these. Like, let's just go see what's up. And we saw them. None of them were like, yes, like a lot of them had a lot of compromises, whether they didn't have a big enough yard or enough privacy, or they weren't in the exact place that I wanted it to be. There was always like a give and take with the ones that we saw, or like maybe it didn't have the right kitchen, or the color of the house wasn't right, or whatever. It's like some of them had some good stuff, but just never like the ideal home. And that night I came home and I wasn't, feeling the most excited because I feel like, damn, I hope that me wanting to move in here doesn't mean that I'm going to have to compromise on any of the things that I really, really want just to be able to live where I want, or vice versa. Like, I don't want to compromise living where I want just to get the things that I really want in a house. And so when I got home later that day, I was like, whatever, let me just go look at the houses again. And I was like, this is so stupid. Like, why are you looking through these same houses? You've been looking at them for like a whole week. It's been the same ones. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're wasting time. Like, okay, you looked at these same houses a million times. There's nothing new. And out of nowhere, this house, this beautiful home shows up. And this house is maybe, let's say, like 25% less than the usual houses that we were looking for that same space and with the same things that we wanted. So it's about 25% less in money, and it's perfect in every single category that me and my partner wanted, right? Like it had the yard, it had the privacy, it had the perfect kitchen, it had every single thing in our list. It had it and way better. Like beautiful kitchen, beautiful like yard, beautiful like everything. Not only did I have it, but it was like the best version of it. And I just couldn't believe that it was all the things we wanted for way less than the price that we were already kind of accepting when deciding to move into this area. And so I was like, what the heck? Now I had noticed that it said it had been posted 2 days ago. And it also didn't have like the full address on there because I guess the people that were living there, like their lease wasn't up. So I guess the people who were putting it up for um like rent or for viewing, they didn't want to like disclose the address and people like show up and try to see it in person. But I'm so like acclimated to that area that me and my partner were able to find it without even having the address. Now also on the website where they had the pictures of this house, they only had like maybe 5 pictures. Like it didn't even show all the bedrooms or like all the spaces correctly. It seemed like the people that were living there took the pictures while living there. And those were the like pictures that were uploaded to the site. Like you could see like their dog in the pictures and like other people in the background. So it was like super unprofessional pictures. And I was like, okay, like is this even like a real listing? Like is this like a scam? Like because it didn't have the address, like I said, it didn't have like all the pictures, and there was like people in the pictures. So it just seemed like, is this real? Is this not? And I had seen that post at like 10 p.m. that night, and it was like Sunday. So I was like, no worries. Tomorrow morning, I'm just gonna text like the person on the listing and see if this house is like really up for rent or like what's the vibes. That whole night I had so much like anxiety going to sleep, and I just wanted to know so bad like if it was real. So fast forward, let's skip past the story. I called, she said yes, the house is available. She had asked me a couple questions about myself and to see if if we were right for the space, everything was perfect. She was like, text me later this week and I'm gonna try to set up like an in-person tour. And so that happened later that week. I reached out. She gave me the time and the place and all the stuff for the in person tour. Now, I had to let this lady know, hey, I really want to move in so bad. Like, I don't know who else wants to move in. I don't care. Let me know what I could do to get on top of this list of moving into this house. Like, this house is perfect for me. I don't even care to see it in person, is what I told her. Just give it to me. She was like, oh, just come to the tour, this and this and that, and then we'll see. So I figured out how much we would need to move into there, which was like about $10,000 with like all the fees and the month rent and whatever. It was like about $10,000 to move into this house. Now, that is already pretty steep, right? $10,000. It's not like $100. Like it's $10,000. And I was like, okay, we could do that. Now the problem was that to break my lease early because the house was going to be available May 15th and my lease isn't up until September, like I said. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I looked at my contract, like my lease agreement, and I had selected the option where you pay 2 months of rent to move out, which is about give or take like $4,000. So I was looking at about $15,000 to move in like like 2 weeks because that was the beginning of like last week, and these people would have been moving out on the 15th, and I think our move-in day would have been the 20th. So it was really like 2 to 3 weeks to cough up about $15,000 to move into this house. Now me and my partner decided, you know what, this house is so worth it that we're willing to pay $4,000 extra, just to move out of here, just to move in there. Like that's how much of a good deal and perfect this house was. So we're kind of willing to throw away $4,000 just to secure it because there was nothing else as perfect and as like everything that we needed. So it was literally worth the $15,000 or the $4,000 that we were just thrown away to move out of here early. That's what we literally ended up decided on. Now, for this whole week, I had so much anxiety. This house is all I could think about. I was texting that realtor lady, like, hey, I'll pay extra to live in here. And like, whatever. Like, I'll move in the day that they're moving out. Like, whatever you need me to do, I'll pay you extra. I literally try to bribe her a little bit. Okay. So embarrassed, but I did. I really wanted this house. I was willing to bribe her. I was willing to pay extra for the rent. I was willing to do anything and everything to move into this house. And I was so convinced that the way that everything lined up, that I was going to get it because same thing happened with this, like where I live now. Like I had done everything and everything felt so right. And I just had that feeling. And this house not only didn't have everything perfect, but like also like the address felt like so aligned because of the numbers and the way that I found it. And the lady spoke Spanish. And I don't know, there was like all these things, these little signs that I felt like, okay, that's my confirmation right there. Like I'm going to get it. Everything's happening for me. And I was so convinced and I was so excited and nervous. I was really nervous too because we had to show proof of income, which we obviously have like income, but they wanted like three something times the rent. So I was figuring out how I was going to be able to prove that. And I had done all these things, like so many things to make sure that I was going to be able to get this house. And we went to the open house. It was way more beautiful in person than it was online. I felt even more in love with it. And she gave me like the application and she said, here, everybody's gonna apply, and then tomorrow I have a meeting with the owners and we're gonna sit down, we're gonna pick an applicant to actually do like the formal application, and if they get approved they'll move in. So I'll let you know by tomorrow. I had a trip, so I left that Friday night after the house tour, and I was so anxious this whole time. Like I was on a trip, on a little family vacation, and I couldn't even fully enjoy the moment because I was just so anxious for this response for the next day. And the end of the story is that she told me that we are their second choice. So we aren't their first choice. Somebody else got selected. And if those people don't get approved, like if their application isn't like approved or if they're not right for the space, and we will be the up next, basically. The second choice were the runner ups. And uh, man, that news literally broke my heart. And I consider myself to be very like lucky and abundant in my life, and I feel like I get a lot of the things that I desire, and I'm good at like manifesting them into my life and just getting what I want. Like I feel like I align myself with the things that I really 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 want and that feel right for me, and I just have a way of knowing when I'm getting it. And I was so convinced that I was going to get this home, and I like I said I was willing to do anything. Like I offered them extra money, and I didn't like we didn't get it. I mean, technically speaking, that was Saturday and today's Wednesday when I'm shooting this episode today late. Sorry guys. Um and so I guess there's like still a slim chance that it'll be our house. But now obviously it feels less likely than, you know, for it to happen. And I haven't been I haven't had to deal with such a big disappointment in a very long time. Like I can't even recall like a recent like heart-shattering disappointment. And I know that like this isn't like groundbreaking news. Like I know that there's like bigger issues and like all these other things that people go through, and but for me I really put so much time and energy and like desire into this, and it kind of just it's out of my control. Like I did all the things that I could, right? And so that's something with like expectations that is a non-negotiable. Like you do as much as you can to try to ensure the outcome that you want, and then there's still a possibility that that outcome won't happen. Like if you're applying for a job, or if you really want a relationship to work out, or a friendship, or if you want to get a promotion, or if you want to move out, or whatever the case may be. If you have this expectation of a want and you really do everything in your power to do your end of, the bargain, like you show up, you do what you have to do, and then you still don't get the outcome that you desire, there's not really much you could do, and there's not much for you to blame yourself, and there's nothing else that you could have done. Like if you know there's nothing else that you could have done, then it's like, what are you going to do? You can't dwell in it, you can't like beat yourself up about it, but there's still that heavy burden of disappointment. And it's like one of those things that I haven't really learned how to cope with. I guess it's like personal disappointment. I feel like I usually am good at, like striving for the things that I want and accomplishing them and doing whatever it takes to make sure that I get that result. Like I'm very passionate and dedicated and motivated when I really want something. And it was just so hard. Like I'm still so sad about it. And I don't know, because sometimes people say that maybe you shouldn't have these big expectations or put so much value into things that you can't control. But then it's like, how are you supposed to get the things that really matter in life? Like anything that is worth having should come with a chance of disappointment, because if not, then it's like, how good was it in the first place? Like, like if you aren't going to be disappointed if a relationship fails, or if you don't get that job, or if you don't get accepted to a university that you want to go to, or whatever the case is, if you are not going to be disappointed by that outcome, if it isn't going the way that you want, then I guess you didn't really want it in the first place. And in a way, that's like the safer option, is to not become too attached to the outcome and to just kind of have your desires at like a manageable level where you can expect something and want it and work towards it, but not become so attached to the idea that if it fails, that you will be heartbroken and shattered. But then, like, how I don't know. Like, it feels like that's not like a passionate way to live life. And I feel like I would rather have so much passion and have to deal with the disappointment than to dull down my expectations or my desires in order to not deal with the heartbreak. And that's like my choice. I know you could probably choose like the other end of the stick in order to not have so much heartache or disappointment when things don't go the way that you want. But I think for me, I'm willing to take the L in order to be more passionate and more like, and to really strive for the things that I want. Like, I wouldn't want to live a life where I'm just okay, like I want it, but like if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Now, with that being said, I also understand that things have always like worked out for me. And so even though it feels like, damn, I didn't get the house of my dreams and I couldn't move in and I didn't get it, I also know that in retrospect, all the things that didn't work out for me before worked out for me way better in a way that I couldn't see at the time, in a way that only I can see now in retrospect, looking back and being like, okay, if that wouldn't have happened the way it did, then I wouldn't have this and this and this now. And so I can obviously rationalize with myself and be like, okay, maybe this is because in September, you'll find just as good, if not a better home with the same beautiful, perfect price and perfect everything. And you won't have to just kind of burn $4,000. You could use that for new decorations and a new couch or freaking vacation or whatever. It's 4 freaking grand. So you could use that for a lot of things. Um, and so it was like a way for me to not just like burn this money and not like rush into it when I don't need to, because there will still be a beautiful home waiting for me when it's the right time. Or maybe it's because the landlords would have been dickheads and they would have made my experience a living hell. Or maybe the house has mold, or maybe whatever. The possibilities are endless and it'll only make sense eventually, but it's hard to rationalize with that now. Like, even though I understand that everything has always worked out in my favor and that everything that went right and wrong in my life has led me to this perfect place where I am now, and that this is another version of things working out for me perfectly. It doesn't feel like that now. And I could tell myself all these things and I can rationalize with myself and I can recall times where things felt like they were going to hell and they ended up being the best thing that could have happened to me, but it still doesn't fix like the empty feeling that I have now, because I wanted it so bad. I wanted it with my entire being. It's all I could think about. It's all I could talk about. It's everything. I was going to sleep dreaming about it, waking up out of every freaking dream from being in that house. And now I'm just kind of learning to like cope with failing my expectations. And there are other expectations that I don't accomplish that I can take blame for. Like, even for example, this podcast, I ideally, like in a perfect world, wanted to drop like 4 episodes and for it to be known all over like the world and whatever, like we all have these huge expectations. And then I can look back and be like, okay, well, you didn't like post it as much as you could, or you didn't advertise it the right way, or it hasn't been long enough, or you didn't really want it to blow up so soon because you're still kind of figuring out the ins and outs of your podcast and you're still figuring out how to put it on Spotify and all these other things. Like, I feel like I'm not ready for that step, even though that's what I want. I can rationalize with myself as to why I haven't gotten it, because I haven't put in everything that I could have in order to receive that back. With this house, I did. I put in everything that I could. I bribed as many people as I could. I freaking like did everything in my power. And sometimes it's just not up to you. And that hurts. It hurts when you can't control every little aspect. And sometimes you're just not ready for something that you really, really want. And it's just not the right time. And you have to just sit back and redirect and keep striving for the things that you do want, and just understand they're going to come at a different time in a better way, and that it's going to be perfect when it does come, but it still hurts now. And with that being said, I am trying to learn to manage my expectations now and how to really desire something without it breaking me if I don't get it. And I don't know if I'll figure that out soon or not. It feels like no, because I can't imagine really, really wanting something like that bad, how I wanted this house, not getting it, and being like jolly about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'll keep you guys updated. If you have any tips or tricks for kind of balancing those expectations and the reality, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you girls have gone through or how you get through tough times like that. I know this isn't the end of the world, so don't come for me. Okay, I get it. This isn't like world ending news. It's not like my lease is up or like I needed this job or I was going to be homeless or something, but it's still something that I really, really wanted and that I didn't get. And uh, what a heartbreaking moment for Wendy. So I'll leave you girls with that. I'll keep you all updated on this part of my life when I do end up moving and all that fun stuff. But for now, I guess I'll be here where I live now, which is still beautiful and she's still Gorgina and she does everything that she needs to do. But I just really wanted the other house. Whatever. Okay. I love you girls. I'll see you all next Wednesday. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this Wednesday and listening to me rant about my expectations that led to sadness. And I'm still coping with my sadness. Okay. All right. I love you girls. Bye.